Hello everyone, my name is Alexander Leonov, and this is the March episode of In the Trend of VM. Today we will look at the vulnerabilities that have become popular over the past month and answer the question of who should be patching hosts with deployed applications. Let us start with 4 trending vulnerabilities. 2 of them affect Microsoft Windows and were fixed as part of the February Microsoft Patch Tuesday. An elevation of privilege vulnerability in Windows Ancillary Function Driver, AFD.sys, a critical Windows system driver responsible for network communication. AFD.sys provides low-level functionality for the WinSock API, enabling applications to manage network sockets. An authenticated attacker can exploit this vulnerability by executing a specially crafted program to run code with system privileges. According to the description, this vulnerability is very similar to last year's vulnerability, this one, which was actively exploited by the Lazarus group. An elevation of privilege vulnerability in Windows storage. Windows storage is a standard component responsible for storing data on a computer. If exploited successfully, an attacker can delete arbitrary files. And according to the ZDI study, attackers could exploit this opportunity to escalate their privileges in the system. For both vulnerabilities in Windows, signs of in-the-wild exploitation were immediately detected, but the scale of the attacks remains unknown. However, in any case, you should not delay installing the February Microsoft security updates. Now let's move on to the vulnerabilities of network devices. Authentication bypass in PAN-OS. PAN-OS is the operating system used in all Palo Alto Network's next-generation firewalls. This vulnerability allows an unauthenticated attacker to gain access to the PAN-OS management web interface. The attacker can then invoke certain PHP scripts, compromising the integrity and confidentiality of PAN-OS. The vendor bulletin was released on February 12th. On the same day, a setnote posted a write-up on the vulnerability. The next day, a POC exploit appeared on GitHub. On February 18th, Greynoise reported that they had detected active exploitation attempts. According to Palo Alto, the vulnerability is being exploited alongside privilege escalation this one and authenticated file read this one vulnerabilities. As a result, the attacker gains the ability to execute Linux commands on the device as root, and then use this to further develop the attack, install updates, and restrict access to administrative web interfaces. And finally, the last vulnerability in today's episode: remote code execution in CommuniGate Pro. CommuniGate Pro is a universal server platform for organizing corporate communications. It combines many services, including email, voice, messaging, and collaboration automation. Since this is a domestic Russian product, it is often used to replace Microsoft Exchange. The vulnerability allows a remote, unauthenticated attacker to execute arbitrary code on a vulnerable CommuniGate Pro server. It could lead to unauthorized access, data theft, or system takeover. The vulnerability is caused by a stack-based buffer overflow. Versions from 6.3.0 to 6.3.39 are vulnerable. According to CyberArk, there are signs of exploitation of the vulnerability in real attacks. As of February 14, approximately 40% of all monitored CommuniGate Pro hosts were affected by the vulnerability. If you are using CommuniGate Pro, upgrade to the secure version. This is the first trending vulnerability in a Russian domestic product since 2023. VM Riddle. There are 2 departments. In one, Linux admins are focused on golden images and hardening. In the other, IT people are exclusively concerned with the work of the application. For example, PostgreSQL. Which of them will you delegate to regularly update Linux hosts, kernel, and packages with this deployed application? In my opinion, host updates should be handled by the same employees who service applications on these hosts. Otherwise, they will constantly blame problems with the application on the team that updated the OS. You broke everything for us again. It's better to let them fully update and test everything themselves. And if the application engineers do not want to take this responsibility, you can hint that Linux admins will then install OS updates without any testing. And in case of failures, the application engineers will be the ones to blame, since they agreed to such a scheme. You might argue that it is more convenient for administrators to only do their part of the job. Let's just make sure nothing can break. Let Linux administrators update the host, and let application administrators update only the application that is under their responsibility. Packages related to the application should be put on hold immediately when installing the application, so updating them will not be possible when the host is updated. And if updating the host still breaks the application, then we will simply postpone the updates until the application can support it. Cool, right? Yes, this scheme is convenient for administrators, but for a VM specialist, such collaboration and blurring of responsibility is extremely inconvenient because he will often have to stimulate 2 and possibly more teams that will point to each other. Critical vulnerabilities will not be fixed with the wording, "update delayed." It is unclear who will be held responsible if the vulnerability is exploited during this delayed period. Apparently, it is assumed that the VM specialist himself will be responsible, so I would not advise VM specialists to promote such a scheme. But if such a scheme is established in the organization and works successfully, then, naturally, it should not be destroyed. The rules for resolving controversial issues should be carefully described so that there is always a clear responsible person to whom the pushing will be directed, as well as punishment in case of an incident. In any case, the main thing is that updates are installed and vulnerabilities are fixed, preferably in accordance with the SLA. And how exactly this happens and by whom is not so important. That's all. Read more about these vulnerabilities in our March digest of trending vulnerabilities and in the post on Haber. Links via QR code and in the description. This was Alexander Leonov. Click the like button and the bell, subscribe to the channel, write your impressions of the episode in the comments. We are also waiting for your questions on the topic of vulnerability management. See you in a month. Bye, everyone.